what is the advantages? So these systematic reviews, they always have a level of evidence attached to it. And if you are doing a review of all randomized control trials, then it is the best level of evidence that you can have. It solves an unsolved problem, and you don't need any ethical approval. So that is the best part. You do a paper, you don't need an approval, and you can add your clinical recommendations in the end, and your recommendations are exactly going out in the world what you think is right. For the clinical reviews, on the other hand, is not much favored by the journal. Most of the journals favor systematic reviews because the clinical reviews are biased, cherry picking of data, and from only one point of view of the author. So systematic reviews are always favored by most of the journals. Now, but there are a couple of problems with systematic reviews. They are very highly competitive, only 1 or 2 per issue that you see, whereas there are 20 other research articles, and it has to be written in a typical research format. There has to be an introduction, a material methods section, a result discussion, everything like just like a research article. So it is a complete research article. A systematic review will be just like any other research article, and believe me, it is a very, very tedious and demanding job to put together a systematic review. Now, what are your starting steps? When you start, you want to do a systematic review, you'll make a protocol. So first of all, you have to register the protocol in Prospero. So Prospero is a agency in UK where you have to register your systematic reviews. Now, the good thing is, pre-COVID, all the journals wanted your protocols registered in Prospero before you even started. Post-COVID, now they are accepting without it because Prospero is very, very busy. It is not registering non-COVID systematic reviews. So I've had sent many systematic reviews. Only the COVID systematic review got registered. Rest of them are not getting registered. So that one step is gone. You don't need to register now, and you can just say that Prospero is not registering it. That is what I've been doing. You need to have a team. Every journal will see that a systematic review is coming from a team of authors, 3 or 4, minimum 3, with at least one expert in the subject matter, because a knee expert cannot write a shoulder paper. So as simple as that. When you take up a systematic review, you have to identify an unsolved problem or controversial problem, a question which has not been answered in the literature. You cannot do a systematic review where already the papers are saying that this is the solution. So a solution which has not been clearly stated. So your systematic review should be on that. Then again, you have to pose the right question in the PICO format. Just like any other research article that Ashok mentioned, a PICO format has to be used even for systematic reviews. For example, we published this in JSCS, and we clearly defined that we wanted only chronic neglected shoulder dislocation patient, and we wanted results of head preserving techniques only. When you start the systematic reviews, you have to do a thorough search. Now, where do you have to search it? So all the journals want to see that you have at least searched in PubMed, you have at least searched in Embase and Cochrane. Now PubMed, of course, everyone will do. This problem is doing it in Embase. Embase or Scopus, both of the subscription nobody has. So you have to borrow we borrowed the username password from our friends in UK, US, whatever way. But Embase and PubMed are the 2 minimum search engines that you will have to use in a systematic review, or it will not be taken as a thorough review done. So basically what this means is the journals want to see you have covered and reviewed and seen and read all the papers possible on that subject. You cannot do a handful of papers review. You have to do all that is possible. Some journals, the top journals, not the ortho journals, but the non-ortho top journals will even want you to search the gray literature. The gray literature is the one which is not been published. They are conference proceedings, they are government reports, even those. So those are not ortho journals, luckily. In ortho journals, of course, PubMed and Embase, you will have to search the bibliography of relevant articles and the top journals of orthopedics, at least JBJS, BJJ, CORR, Journal of Orthopaedic Research, JSCS Spine, so the relevant subspecialty journal. 2 persons will have to independently search and form the results. Now you will have to search, like Ashok mentioned, in the PubMed you will have to use Boolean operators. You will have to search have to apply the search string. So 2 people will do it. They will identify first results, remove the duplicates. Then they will search. They will read the abstracts, and then they will apply the eligibility criteria, remove the rest of the articles, and eventually when they have some of the couple of 30, 40 articles left, they will have a full text reading of those articles, complete. So two people will be independently reading all the full text and applying the eligibility criteria, and then in the end they will have a couple of articles left, which may be 11, 12, 15, which will be included in the final analysis. So you will have to have inclusion, very strict inclusion exclusion criteria. For example, are you taking only prospective RCTs or also retrospective? Are you taking studies which have your sample size more than something, or with a follow-up more than 2 years? So these criteria will have to be established before you start it. For example, we published this in JSC as reviews reports. So we only wanted patients who have undergone reverse shoulder or anatomic shoulder with only chronic dislocation shoulders and results with only at least a minimum of 1 year. So these were our inclusion criteria. You can have your inclusion, exclusion, and have to be applied strictly. So eventually you'll have a couple of articles only left, but those will form the main bulk. The next step will be you will have to report what are the quality of studies that you are reporting. So these are a couple of tools. So there is a Cochrane risk of bias assessment, a minors tool, which will be included in the paper and tell you the included papers are of good quality, bad quality, poor quality. Now next step, and this is the most tedious and painstaking part, each paper will have to be broken down and established and entered in a spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet. You will have to have these criteria. What is the, where is the paper coming from, which journal, prospective, retrospective, how many are the cases, how many shoulders are there, what is the mean age range, what is the age range, what are the female, male, all the demography has to be broken down, entered in spreadsheet, entered in Excel. Very, very tedious job, 2 people should be doing it, but until you do this, you cannot do a systematic review. Then eventually your results will have to be entered in a spreadsheet, like what was a dislocation type, for example, what was done, how many, what type of replacement was done. So each criteria or each data has to be entered, and eventually your spreadsheet will look like this. You will have a results like event rate or gain in outcome scores, and that will have to be entered in each study, and eventually then you'll pool the data if you want. Now if you stop here, your systematic review is done, you're over. You may not go ahead and do a meta-analysis. It's not very necessary. Although if you do it, it's already it's looked at in good light and people like it, the journal like it. But a systematic review stops there. If you go ahead, you do a meta-analysis, and how? So in a meta-analysis, then you'll have to pool the results. So this is out of the scope of this talk, but these are little complicated issues. You'll have to pool the data, which is not just simply adding all the data. It is a pooling of the weighted data, means according to the sample size, according to the standard error of mean, and then you'll apply the statistical test of significance, heterogeneity test, forest plots. Those are little more, but if you do them, your paper, the weight of the paper increases. Not necessary to do them, and not necessary that all the papers are good enough that you can do them. So only if you have good enough, good quality papers, RCTs, prospective trials, you can pool the results and present them as a final result, final outcomes. So in a summary, a team should start it. 2 people cannot do it. At least they want to see, all journals want to see 3 or 4 people in a team. Identify and unsolved problems, search in the relevant databases, download full text. Eventually you have to read and then do it. Extract all the data in a spreadsheet, collate the results if you can. Do it, do it as in some of the software managers that are present, and then write a research paper, just like a research paper, and present your recommendations. You can give your own recommendations, what you think is right or not, based on what you found and based on what you practice in your clinical setup, that what you think is okay. Thank you.